Howdy y'all, my name is Bardo, and welcome back to another episode of Disney Armchair, the channel where I talk a little about the past, a bit about the present, and a whole lot about the future of the Disney parks. Today's topic is one that I half-jokingly suggested I was going to do on Twitter if the channel's debut seemed to be going well, and to that point, it seems to be doing just that. I know it's not much, but I'm really surprised that an 11.5-minute video that I edited and posted in one night garnered more than double-digit subscribers and a few hundred clicks so easily. Dare I say, it's already going better than the early days of my music channel. So thank you all, but we have a surprising amount to cover in this video, so let's not waste any more time on the intro. As my guy Rod Sterling once said,
a warm welcome back to those of you who made it.
Because today, we're gonna get a little weird, pun definitely intended, and talk about the Candleman. Now, before I can even begin to talk about who or what the heck a Candleman is, we gotta talk about the Museum of the Weird. And before we can talk about the Museum of the Weird, we gotta talk about Rolly Crump. Roland Fargo Crump, born February 27, 1930, was an American animator and designer, perhaps best known as one of the most legendary Imagineers of all time. In 1952, Crump was hired by Walt Disney Productions as an in-between artist, and later became an assistant animator, working on iconic films such as Lady and the Tramp, 101 Dalmatians, Peter Pan, and even Sleeping Beauty. In 1959, Crump then moved on to joining the show design team for WED Enterprises, better known today as Walt Disney Imagineering. Throughout the next decade, Crump's work would appear in many of the most iconic early Disney attractions. This includes the totems and tiki scene in the Enchanted Tiki Room, as well as the clock tower of It's a Small World. Interestingly, he would also go on to work on parks such as Busch Gardens and Knott's Berry Farm. Much later in 1992, Crump would return as executive designer of Walt Disney Imagineering to work on Epcot, giving us an updated land pavilion as well as innovations. Crump officially retired from Imagineering just 4 years later, and in 2004, he was awarded the title of Disney Legend. Rolly Crump passed away in his home just last year on March 12th. Now, for those of you who happen to be big fans of a certain ride at the Disney parks, I'm sure you've noticed I've left a bit of a key attraction out of Rolly Crump's portfolio. That attraction would technically be the Haunted Mansion, but perhaps more accurately, we should attribute his work to the actual exhibit it was meant for: the Museum of the Weird. As you may or may not know, the original idea for Disneyland's Haunted Mansion was for it to be a walkthrough attraction. Among the Imagineers working on this version were Rolly Crump and fellow Imagineering legend Yale Gracie, whose effects work on the Haunted Mansion would define the ride forever, but he deserves his own video some other time. Rolly Crump had some pretty interesting ideas on what to include in the Haunted Mansion, as his vision was much more occult and odd than the more standard ghostly affair we ended up with. These ideas for a more surreal experience were apparently well liked enough to be considered independently from the Haunted Mansion as a new attraction called the Museum of the Weird. This attraction was imagined to be tied in some way with the Haunted Mansion, such as being an exhibit guests would exit into or enter from, although it may have been considered a completely standalone but adjacent walkthrough as well. The ideas and concepts presented by Rolly Crump for the Museum of the Weird are, to put it lightly, quite eerie and unsettling. Artifacts in the museum included a grandfather clock in the shape of a coffin, an aquarium home to undead fish, and a talking chair.
Hello there.
Other concept art suggests the inclusion of living and perhaps more dangerous specimens, such as a man-eating plant, this creature only referred to as a beast man, and this lady quite straightforwardly titled the Mistress of Evil. Many of the items within the museum were designed with the intent of being interactable and or dynamic, such as the talking chair, which, as the name suggests, could talk to guests. Rolly Crump described one of these show scenes in his 2012 autobiography, where he stated, "The Mistress of Evil was another character I came up with, and I was going to have her appear in an archway up on a balcony. She would be lifted up in the air, and she'd open her arms real wide and start screaming like Maleficent did. Just really creepy and weird stuff I had her doing." Unfortunately, the Museum of the Weird never came to fruition, as it was scrapped once it was decided to make the Haunted Mansion a ride-through attraction instead of a walkthrough. However, many of the designs and ideas for the Museum of the Weird ended up in the Haunted Mansions in one way or another. Some big examples are the iconic face armchair that I use as a logo for this channel, the idea of a seance chamber, the staring busts, and the man-eating plants if you count Mystic Manor in Hong Kong Disneyland. There's also plenty more references that exist outside the rides, but we'll actually circle back to some of those later. There is, after all, one more oddity from the Museum of the Weird that I haven't mentioned yet, one that has also made its way into the Haunted Mansion in miniature form, and perhaps in a much larger role in the near future. Of course, I'm referring to the Candleman. The Candleman was reportedly the first creature designed by Crump for the Museum of the Weird. It was intended to appear as if it was melting before your eyes, and based on its design alone, it has become quite popular and synonymous with the unused attraction. It's personally the first thing my mind goes to when I think of the Museum of the Weird, alongside the talking chair. Disney seems to agree, as the Candleman has actually appeared in a surprising amount of places for being a single character from an unbuilt attraction. This includes a small role in a scrapped Haunted Mansion animated film, a full-on appearance in the 2014 Seekers of the Weird comic from Marvel, possibly a small cameo in the 2023 Haunted Mansion movie, and most notably appearing alongside other Museum of the Weird concept art on the Disneyland 10th anniversary episode of Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. Quite recently, the Candleman has also made his way into the Haunted Mansion proper. During 2023's yearly Haunted Mansion holiday overlay, a small figure of the Candleman was added to the attic out of respect for Crump's passing, and it has since been added permanently to the scene. But, quite excitingly, the references don't end there. In fact, they even get as recent as this spring, specifically thanks to a video posted to YouTube by Walt Disney Imagineering on April 4th. Take a close look at the background of these shots here. That is clearly the silhouette of the Candleman. I mean, it's only got one pose, so my point is that it isn't hard to mistake. Of course, that now begs the question, what the hell are they going to do with the Candleman? I have a few theories of my own that could answer this question, though some of them may be a bit of a stretch. However, just like my video about the Beyond Big Thunder expansion, I feel like there might be quite a few coincidences that could be falling into place here. Let me explain. So, back in August of last year, Disneyland unveiled their plans to renovate a lot of the area outside the Haunted Mansion. Most notably, this included a new and expanded outdoor queue, as well as a new gift shop just outside the mansion's exit. The ride has been closed since January this year for the grounds expansion, and as far as I can tell, there's been no news of a reopening date. Disneyland has also held back from sharing some of the finer details on the new queue and gift shop, leaving a lot of room for speculation. And speculate, I will. Now, really, you're gonna have to hear me out on this. Is it not a bit too much of a coincidence that we've seen a totally new Candleman figure at the same time the Haunted Mansion is closed down for outdoor refurbishment? I'll say it plainly, I think they're gonna add the Candleman to the ride. For real this time. The mansion is quite conveniently closed right now, and even though there seems to be no mention of the ride itself getting any updates, that doesn't mean they can't do something as simple as adding one new character to it. It would also be a much better way to honor and respect the legacy of Crump as an early Imagineer. Much better anyway than just a simple Easter egg that you probably won't even notice unless you're looking for it. That being said, the Candleman could instead be part of the new grounds expansion. Remember back to what I said about the Museum of the Weird. The original version would have made it part of the Haunted Mansion's entrance or exit, just like the new outdoor queue and gift shop. Now, I doubt the Candleman would make a lot of sense as part of the outdoor queue, since all of that is meant to be themed as a series of gardens, but it could definitely be a part of the gift shop. After all we know about the gift shop right now is that it is meant to be a carriage house belonging to Madame Leota. Madame Leota, of course, being the central icon of the seance room, which, need I remind you, was a concept originated by the Museum of the Weird. Speaking of which, one of the unused ideas for the Museum of the Weird was a gypsy wagon, which would totally fit with the theme of a carriage house owned by Madame Leota. In fact, the gypsy wagon has already been repurposed as the gift shop for the Disneyland Haunted Mansion, where it was also owned by none other than Madame Leota. I wouldn't count out the possibility that this new gift shop may be themed, even if only lightly, to the Museum of the Weird. If that is the case, it would be a no-brainer to include the Candleman as part of the theming for that shop. Now, again, I have to admit, this does feel like a bit of a stretch. I'm literally working with nothing here aside from a handful of coincidences and vague connections. But hey, you know what the ghost host said. There may be 999 happy haunts already, but who's to say the Candleman can't fill that last vacancy and make it 1,000? Either way, I just hope I finally get to see my boy in the flesh. Or, the wax. Only time will tell. Here's hoping the mansion will reopen soon, so we can find out if the Candleman made it to the party. Hello again, and thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I know I said this already in the intro, but seriously, thank you guys for showing up to my pilot episode on this channel and voicing your support. I'm truly surprised by how well that first video did, considering that I hadn't built up any reputation talking about the Disney parks at all yet, and it's really inspired me to get to work on future videos and dedicate some more time and effort to the channel, which I hope was already evident in this video. Speaking of which, big shout out to Astronomic for making this lovely new render of Bardo, sitting on what I hope isn't a dreadfully haunted armchair. Hopefully none of those ghosts follow me home. Oh, and if you're a returning subscriber from the last video, thanks so much for taking an interest in my little ramblings. There'll be plenty more to come. Speaking of which, I am actually planning to drop a video in early May for Star Wars Day. Hopefully I can get it out in time, but that depends on how long it ends up being. Hopefully you'll all get a kick out of that one too. Until then, this is Bardometer signing off. See you in the next video.